Love podcasts, hate nonsense. It's the PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen. 2025, here we go.
Are we still saying Happy New Year?
Happy New Year, Ed.
Happy New Year, Ollie and Ava, and the listener, who we value above all.
Do you wish the listeners a Happy New Year, Ava?
I hope that your New Year is as bad as my 2024 was.
Oh, okay. Sad.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Because you had a stinker.
I actually don't think I had a bad year.
No, when you said
No.
that, I was like, what don't I know about Ava's 2024?
Personal life in meltdown. Any resolutions, guys?
Well, actually, I'm glad you've brought it up. I'm divorcing from my current makeup brand because I've bought the same makeup for years, and actually, do you know I get DMs all the time asking me what my lipstick is, and I'll fucking tell you now because I'm not going to buy it again. It's number 7 in raspberry wine, and it has become crap.
Really?
I think it's like the enshittification of everything.
Good. Very good.
That the quality terrible, colour bad.
What are you moving to? Have you decided?
Well, I'm open.
Oh.
Are you soliciting? Are you soliciting gifts?
Yeah.
You know when an influencer posts like, looking for recommendations in Greece, kiss, 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 and then they get bombarded with free holidays.
Or we did that with Pyatt.
We did, and it worked.
Oh, I did, actually.
They sent us a load of free
Those t-shirts are lovely.
Yeah, they are.
They're so nice.
Those were nice t-shirts.
Except
Thank you for that.
When I wear it, it looks like I'm being like really cunty East Londoner. You know, like, oh, look at me wearing my Tenants t-shirt. Oh.
I don't think it would be interpreted that way, to be honest.
Just an appreciation of Scottish culture, I think.
Well, I appreciate Ed.
And I am
And
the
Anna
personification, apex, actually, of it.
Resolutions for you, Ed?
I'm reading June. Which
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about that.
Ava's face is a picture.
So
Is it good?
it is good. There's a lot more commerce in it than I perhaps anticipated.
What do you mean?
Like they talk about. So
The spice trade.
they talk about they've landed on Arrakis and they're talking about how much money they're going to make from selling the spice, and they're like, well, the Harkonnens were making 10 million Solaris every 3 months, and they're like, whoa, that's a lot of money. But does one Solaris equal $1? I would like some sort of gauge as to how much.
Surely there's some nerd on Reddit who's worked that out.
Probably, but it probably just is 1 for 1. But also, I realised there's quite a lot of commerce in the Game of Thrones books, which I do enjoy. So I think it's because it's based more in reality.
You like
I can
a fairy
understand
book,
like
don't you?
I do like fairy books.
I
But
used to say it was wizards. He liked reading about wizards.
He does like
Yeah.
wizards, doesn't he?
I can understand a crop yield if it's like corn, but if it's spice.
To be clear, most people read fiction for sort of escapism, but you read it for the fabricated international economies that operate, or intergalactic economies in the case of June.
That's my main objection to it. So
Right,
far.
sorry, okay,
There's
that's your
too much
problem.
focus on the commerce.
It's not the good kind of commerce that George R.R. Martin puts in his
No.
books.
It's not like it's not how much is the dragon glass. It's how much is the spice.
It's not a Gary Stevenson book.
No. Oh, speaking of fancy economics. Speaking of fiction. That's
Nice.
what is your year's resolution?
But normally I don't do any.
Right.
And
To be a better father? Or continue in your trajectory of the next time. I mean, because that's a new thing you could do.
have you
To be
seen?
more present, to stop staying
Change
at the,
one nappy.
to stop staying at the Premier Inn round by the office 5 out of 7 nights a
Number
week.
1, see my daughter.
I'm just picturing. Have you seen Barry Keown's social media recently, where he's like
Not
raging-
seen his kids.
No, he's like raging against the social media people, being like, it's no one's place to like speculate about how good or bad a father I am, yada yada yada. And I was just imagining myself on like that trajectory, ending up like dressed as Batman on the Houses of Parliament,
on a TikTok live,
Yeah.
begging for gifts.
begging to see the kids again.
Send me a Saturn.
His New Year's resolution is to stop going home and saying, oh, she's still here, is she?
No, standard stuff.
Yeah.
But by not doing it for like 10 years, I've sort of done
You've got a
like
long list
10.
of habits.
Yeah, I've got a long list of them. Yeah. So
wanna
nothing.
tell us
Nothing.
any of them?
Well, getting fit.
Okay.
Lower my resting heart rate. Quitting the vaping.
Quitting
That's a
vaping?
tough one
Yeah.
for you.
It is a
That
tough
is
one.
pretty good.
Third time lucky, yeah.
They go hand in hand, though, don't they? The exercising and the.
Yeah, and the nicotine.
Yeah.
I'm doing patches this time. And I will say
Really?
it's working quite well.
Would you do gum?
I do.
You know about the gum. Do you remember when he went through the gum?
I don't remember the gum.
Packing heat right now. I always keep that thang on me. And what else? I'm growing a mullet, which neither of you have remarked upon.
I actually did kind of think that,
Yeah.
but I didn't actually mention it.
Soft mullet.
Soft mullet. It's quite a friend of the podcast, Henry Hill.
Yeah,
Mullet.
it is.
Is that what you're aspiring to?
Well,
Are you going for the back as well?
yeah.
Yeah. It looks like the back's been trimmed.
Well, here's just it's longer than it was before.
you have to start the process, and then it grows. You can't. I went into the.
You have to grow your hair.
You have to grow it. Yeah.
Very agonising for a lot of men, I think. The boys that are on the PoliticsJOE team. You've all got good hair.
Yeah.
We've all got mullets,
Yeah, we do actually.
apart from one, who we can't talk about.
Yeah. No, but the other one.
He has got a mullet.
No, the one we can't.
Sean's got a mullet.
Yeah, the one we can't say.
Oh, have you had it cut recently?
I haven't had one for about a year.
Remember when the guy
Yeah, he's
fucked up his
talking out his
haircut?
arse, he is, yeah.
He's lying, isn't he?
No, he's not. Sean's hair used to come down here, and then he went in for a haircut, and the guy just fucking. It was like, enough of that. That looks ridiculous.
But he is actually an international mullet model, isn't he?
Yeah.
With his permission, maybe we'll post that on the Reddit later.
Oh yeah,
He was in the Duta Advocate
yeah.
as mullet guy.
Did you not know what I was talking about?
I do know, yeah. That was funny.
That was good.
Call people more. That's another one of mine.
That is the nice one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stay in touch. Be better.
Who are you phoning tonight?
His wife.
My daughter.
see her.
My daughter.
I've given up vaping.
I'm getting fit again. I'm growing a mullet. I'm not having a crisis. I'm not having a crisis. No, with the mullet, I thought you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, yeah.
And 2024 was the year of mulleted men, so
Absolutely.
I'm becoming a mullet man.
See in the I'm fine. Did you see in the Times yesterday Tim Shipman's thing about a Tory source said something about Musk? Be like, we're not rattled. We're not rattled.
Yeah. It's a good segue, that.
It is. I thought that. Classic Ed Campbell.
Absolutely.
Consummate professional.
King of the segues.
I mean,
The reader of Tim Shipman.
I told Duncan Robinson how much you loved his column.
That's quite embarrassing.
Oh, was it?
I think so.
Why?
I do, though, think probably one of the best columns
There you go.
in British political
Okay,
journalism.
He was
yeah.
really pleased.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah.
You're a connoisseur, Ed, of wizard books.
And he's tell you what,
Yeah.
he's a wizard.
He is a wizard.
They
When it
want
comes to
you.
analysing
They want
political
people
The
to.
Badget column.
They want people to read the column. You know that, right? Like they like that.
True. No. But it's not like, do you ever get it has anyone ever watched one of our videos in front of you? I find it
Nope.
fundamentally quite embarrassing. Like, I've had that happen to me, and I'm like, that is a pretty mortifying thing to experience.
A friend of the podcast, who I won't name, was caught by someone I know watching clips of himself the other day on the tube, and I thought that is humiliating.
That's pretty tough.
Shall I tell you who it was? It was.
You write it down.
Oh yeah.
You've got a pen. This is. I feel like we're sort of loitering in the chit chat because we know that the episode is going to be quite dark.
There you go.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me.
Right, come on then. Should we do it?
Well, yeah. So what we're going to do: Reform and Musk. What we're going to do: grooming gangs. So I'm excited for the Ed Campbell's trademark brand of humour to be sprinkled throughout both of those subjects.
Absolutely. I've been knocking up some jokes together. I'm pushing boundaries.
Where do you want to start?
Should we start at the
beginning.
the beginning?
I think that's generally a good way of approaching things, Ava.
Yeah.
Yeah.
GB News last week, they saw a letter that Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, had written to Oldham Council, who had requested a Home Office-led inquiry into the grooming gangs that were in their area. And Jess Phillips replied saying, look, there's been a number of inquiries over the years. We actually think you should settle this locally rather than this being a national issue. GB News saw this and they said, that's outrageous. You obviously don't care about the young girls who were exploited as viciously as they were. And then it erupted. it became a political football. All of the actual intended meaning, I would argue, behind that original piece of reporting was lost. And it's now it's now with the gods, Elon Musk, who has called to depose Nigel Farage. It's a very natural trajectory, as you can imagine.
Yeah, he's called. So we will return to the beginning, but where we are right now, he's called for Farage to no longer be leader of Reform, given like a soft endorsement of Rupert Lowe. He's held a poll on Twitter asking whether or not America should overthrow the British government, and he either called Starmer or Phillips a rape genocide apologist.
I think it was Phillips.
Called Phillips a rape genocide apologist.
Starmer should be in jail.
Yeah. So it's got quite lively.
Wee bit.
Would be one way of describing it. Let's just to dial in where it all started on the inquiries. The new Labour government has opened, I think, more than 60 inquiries or report building exercises since it came into power. Do you think there is a fair criticism that goes, well, you've fucking commissioned one into every other bloody thing. Why won't you do it to this one?
I think that the criticism could not be more fair. Honestly, I think it's an oversight is too diluted of a word to describe Jess Phillips writing to the council and saying this is not a national issue, you can sort it out by yourselves. That of Oldham Council voted and decided that they could not mark their own homework and they needed it to be done by an outside organisation. They needed it to be on a national level. The reason they said that is because this scandal was perpetrated by people who worked alongside the council, with the council. It was so entwined and entangled that they don't feel they can prepare a fair report. And now there's been loads of talk about, well, we've had so many inquiries and we can go through them if you like to in a minute. We've had loads of inquiries and we've had this huge landmark report by Professor J a couple of years ago. And there's all these recommendations. Labour only committed to implementing those recommendations this Sunday at 1 p.m. That's when the press release came out. Labour had no plan to implement or fast track those recommendations before this furore online. And they can backtrack as much as they want now and they can say, no, we cared. You didn't. Otherwise, you would have done it day one when you got into office.
I suppose neither of the Conservatives didn't implement the J report. I think that's maybe what is particularly distasteful about the furore is the way the Conservatives and other people are kind of using this opportunistically. I think someone said, I texted you about it, was it at the weekend, saying someone had tweeted all these journalists and commentators saying, you have never tweeted about grooming gangs, as if that person had. This isn't a new scandal. Obviously, it should be, these things should be implemented and it should be taken incredibly seriously, and it's a massive injustice that it hasn't been. But it is, like we talked about, Duncan Robinson, it's the politics of noticing things. This is the latest Westminster scandal. This has all been in the public domain for a decade.
Yeah, predates our time in journalism.
Yeah.
But I see the thing that annoyed me about the Labour response, which was, well, look at the Conservatives. They had however many years to implement all of these recommendations and they never did. It's like, that doesn't solve anything. At the heart of this, you've got they were described in the report as working class girls who were exploited by the system, police officers who didn't care about them, counsellors who didn't care about them, care workers who didn't care about them, and put them at times in harm's way. Those girls, how does it help them if at the top we're arguing about, well, Badenoch should have pushed for an inquiry sooner, or, Boris Johnson yapped about spaffing money up the wall? It doesn't help them.
Yeah, I think you can make that political football point about, well, basically every political faction that touches this issue, from the far right through to the Labour Party. Because when you look at the evidence, if you like, the Home Office has looked at whether or not there was a connection between ethnicity and child sexual exploitation, which is grooming gangs by their proper name, and found that white men were the most common perpetrators, that white people were the most common perpetrators. But adding on top of that it was virtually impossible to come to any meaningful conclusion, regardless of whether or not the data sets were complete, and they were incomplete, because of the simple fact that 75% of survivors do not ever tell anyone about what happened to them. You can never come to a meaningful conclusion about the ethnic makeup of the people that abuse children, because 3/4 of the people that get abused will never tell anyone that they've been abused. So even if we we did record the ethnicity of every recorded offender, every recorded person that was charged, every recorded person that got convicted, you're still only working with 25% of the data set. So you can never come to a meaningful conclusion. So anyone that, whether it's Suella Braverman, whether it's Tommy Robinson, that wants to make light of the fact that there are British Pakistani men involved in this, yeah, British Pakistani men have been involved in it. But the second you draw any other you try to draw any conclusion from that, you're exposing yourself. You're exposing yourself for your prejudice, and you're exposing yourself about your will to discriminate. Priti Patel, actually, she wrote the foreword to that report commissioned by the Home Office I mentioned, and it is dripping with disappointment. She's like, I've got the quote down here somewhere. She said the findings were disappointing because community and cultural factors are clearly relevant to understanding and tackling offending, and implied that with better data collection, including in relation to ethnicity, the findings would have been different. It's like, no. It wouldn't have been. Yeah, okay. If you were able to somehow get 100% of the people, but you can't. It was almost like she wanted the evidence to follow her politics rather than the other way around. It wasn't her politics following the evidence.
Because you could extrapolate any common variable.
Yeah.
From those men. Like one thing they have in common, they're all paedophiles.
Yeah.
That's probably the most important
I think
thing.
that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, they're all gangs of paedophiles.
But also, you're right. It's like context and opportunity, right? It's the nighttime economy. I think that's probably someone has an individual propensity to abuse children, right? One, but the second part is the opportunity, right? And if you work at an off license, you drive a cab, these vulnerable children who are out late at night, aren't supervised, aren't being looked after, that provides you the window of opportunity to abuse, and that perhaps, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm not an expert in this, but maybe the common denominator being all of the perpetrators' involvement in the nighttime economy might be more relevant to understanding the nature of the offending rather than the fact that in some of the cases of these gangs, they were British Pakistani men.
I don't know how helpful it is that Twitter has got or embroiled in this argument. I think I find myself very disappointed in the left and the left's reaction to the grooming gang scandal, because I think that you have put that perfectly, but I don't know if anyone else has bothered to actually think about it. They've some of the most prominent left-wing commentators were totally silent on this for a good couple of days when the GB News piece first came out, because in their head, it's a right-wing issue. It's not something that they should touch. It's a racism issue, point blank, and we're not going to... In any other scenario, if it hadn't been, pushed to the forefront by someone like GB News, the left would be all over it, because at its base, it's violence against women and girls.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I just I don't really understand that cognitive disconnect. It's like, do you lot not know how to feel about something until you've been told how to feel about something, or been told that it's okay to be angry? It's like, I don't understand why this grooming gang scandal is such a bizarre political hot potato. If everyone actually just got together and was like, do you know what, we hate paedophiles, pretty baseline.
Quite a common thing in this country.
Quite a common thing.
We've been trying to build that consensus with this podcast for many years now, and I think we're finally starting to make some headway. Yeah, look, you hit the nail on the head, Ava. The way to approach this from a socially progressive critique is one that engages with sort of structural misogyny. Right, that is what it is. Is in a country where 1 in 3 schoolgirls report being sexually harassed while they're wearing their school uniform. That, for me, is probably a more revealing statistic than the percentage of the ethnic makeup of any of the offenders, because it's happening in the context of institutionalized misogyny. You know, there are plenty of people who drive cabs and don't form rape gangs. Do you know what I mean? There are plenty of people. Yeah. There are plenty of people who see a vulnerable young girl on the street and make a decision to help her rather than to hurt her. And if you don't address I wouldn't even call it latent, the blatant sexism that characterizes people that abuse women in this way, you're not going to get anywhere. Like you can't. And so I think, particularly people who are trying to make hay of it, be it Tommy Robinson, be it Suella Braverman, whoever, it's a conversation, or the challenge to them is about victims, because they are so keen to foreground the perpetrators.
I think that's where the argument that the police and the people involved were kind of too woke to help these
complete horseshit.
We're like, it falls short, because what's the police? Not woke. Were the police woke?
No, they're two-tier, Ed. It's two-tier care and it's woke policing.
But as in what, the Metropolitan Police was found to be institutionally sexist, racist, misogynistic, and also was too woke to arrest any Asian paedophiles.
Yeah, and also, by the way, like routinely, statistically, evidentially proven to over-police and aggressively over-police black and brown men. So
I think what's interesting, if you think about the police force and you think about the foreword that Priti Patel wrote to that report, it does stop short of criticising outright the police. And if you actually read the evidence that's submitted to the report, time and time again, it's the police officers who dropped these girls back to where they were being assaulted, or, you know, weren't taking action swiftly or in the manner that they should have done, that they, you know, using the apparatus that they could have had access to. And then you look at other police forces around the country. You look at the Dame Louise Casey report and what she wrote about the Metropolitan Police, about it being institutionally racist and institutionally misogynistic. And you go, well, okay, on one hand, we can go, dirty, disgusting paedophiles had access to these children. On the other hand, you go, why is it up and down the country, every single time we have an inquiry, the finger always seems to land back on the police? Why have you lot failed once again?
Yeah. And it connects to that misogyny point, right? Because, as you said, they were dropping them back there, or they would say that, you know, the girls, the victims, were asking for it or making bad choices, weren't credible witnesses, and so dismissed their claims and their accusations. And I think this connects to the sort of the difficulty for a lot of people with child sexual exploitation, which is different from child sexual abuse. The exploitation being sort of, I can't remember the exact definition, but it's essentially like someone in a position of power making the most of that imbalance, either through coercion or persuasion, to then sexually abuse someone. The police couldn't understand that if one of the girls was, for example, being given an iPhone or a bottle of vodka, or was gaining social status by being associated with these men, that she was being abused. They couldn't comprehend the fact, well, she's financially benefiting from having sex with these people, so how can she be abused? It's like, no, very clearly, if I'm picking a number, but let's say, you know, a 16-year-old girl is having sex with like a 40-year-old man. He could have given her £1 million. I don't care. Like there's a very, very serious conversation that has to be had there at that point. And that's the sort of I think the part that a lot of people struggled, and where the kind of bias and inability and the cover-up started, was that essentially the women weren't taken seriously when they came forward with their claims, and that's why it took so long to get to where it was.
It's an interesting contrast with how the police or social services might treat someone being groomed by a county lines gang, in terms of they'd be getting favours from older men. But I actually don't know for certain, but I would imagine a lot of the children involved in county lines gang are boys. And so there's no misogyny involved in that. There's like you see that person as a young boy being exploited to do dreadful things.
But they fail them on that as well, don't they? Yeah.
But as in, like, I think there obviously is a county lines gang scandal, but has it been a failing on this level?
Yeah.
I think far more important than anyone's ethnicity is misogyny, its power imbalance, its opportunity, like genuinely opportunity to offend. And probably the baseline underlying all of it is a complete disregard for the well-being of children. Do you know what I mean? At its most base level, it's failing to recognise that the people who are being sexually abused are children.
Well, yeah, but there was a big class element to this as well, wasn't there?
100%.
As well, because they were working class children, and they were the police. Well, they thought they were scum. They did. They and we can say they didn't think they were credible witnesses. What you mean by that is when a nice posh girl says this happened to me, perhaps they take more note than when a working class girl does. I think maybe we should talk about the Tommy Robinson stuff.
Yes, I agree. I just want to add one more thing, which is that the context of the offending is incredibly important. So, so let's say you take Rotherham, Oldham, wherever, and there are many examples, and you go, right, it's a British Pakistani male group that has committed the offending, and all of them work in the nighttime economy, and you go, well, I assume British Pakistani men are also overrepresented in the nighttime economy, full stop. In the same way that when you look at institutionalized sexual abuse that's happened at the BBC, most of the offenders are white men, because most of the men employed at the BBC are white men. In the same way, when you look at the Catholic Church, the majority of the offenders are white men, because white men are overrepresented in the clergy in the Catholic Church. So I just kind of want to...
It's the Anglicans as well, though. I mean, look at the
totally
Archbishop.
agree. Sorry.
No, but look
Sorry.
No. I'm not joking.
The Catholic
The
defenders
reason I'm
love
bringing this up is because the Archbishop has had to stand down,
Yeah,
right?
Covering up a sexual abuse scandal.
Today, funny enough, it's actually his last day. He's standing down today, right? He's done.
Pour one out.
It's his birthday as well.
Do you
Spit
know
on the
what I
fucking
found
ground.
so disgusting about that? You had prominent commentators, honestly,
He's
like
handled
actually...
this in a very dignified manner.
But
over
it actually
17,
it astounded me. You had people saying what a wonderful archbishop he was and what a shame it was that he had to leave his position because of, things that weren't anything to do with him. Of course it was to do with him. Have you heard about aiding and abetting? People go to prison for that. I don't understand this sort of like sensitivity to noncery. Like, I just don't get it.
So obviously, the Archbishop of Canterbury is not a nonce.
I didn't say that.
He lied about when he knew about the abuse, and that is the issue over which he has resigned, right?
And do you think that perhaps if you knew about abuse, you should probably report it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Going to shock you guys.
Duty of candour, I'd say.
But
Yes,
I do think it's fascinating because you saw a couple of those commentators that I saw coming out to defend and write, sort of quite poetic posts, some quite romantic love sonnets to the Archbishop, didn't say anything about, when this grooming scandal exploded last week on Twitter. And I'm not getting into I'm not doing tit for tat, you have to speak on everything. I don't believe you do have to speak on everything. But I just think it's pretty shady that you're able to defend someone like the Archbishop, but you're not able to articulate your upset at the grooming gangs. It's just disgraceful.
So you wanted to talk about this in the context of Tommy Robinson.
Well, this is where it all gets murky, isn't it? This is where it gets muddy. This is what the sort of the Professor J who wrote this report, the independent inquiry into child sexual exploitation. She was pretty upset that it's turned into a political football. Well, none of the recommendations have been implemented. So Tommy Robinson, to sort of piggyback on what you were talking about the race element of this, he uses the grooming gang scandal as a vehicle to accelerate his anti-immigration. Actually, that's a pretty soft way of describing it, isn't it? His anti-Muslim stance. That's his vehicle for it. And that's the car or the Cybertruck that Elon Musk has gotten into.
Also worth mentioning that right now, Tommy Robinson is inside prison serving an 18-month sentence for contempt of court in relation to a grooming gang criminal trial. That's one of the reasons why.
Is it?
I think it's
No,
libel.
it's not. It's the Syrian refugee.
It's the movie. It's the documentary.
Wait, hang on. I thought he was...
He repeats the libel about the Syrian schoolboy in the documentary.
Oh, in the documentary, right, yeah.
Sorry,
I'm pretty
let me
sure.
fact check myself.
Carry on. Yeah, contempt of court. The judge said that he had a flagrant breach.
Yeah, he nearly collapsed the trial.
Yeah, it was done in a sophisticated way to ensure maximum coverage. So when he posted it online, he claimed that a Syrian refugee had been committing violent acts on young English girls in his school, which was a baseless claim. Syrian refugee was getting beaten up at school. It was filmed, it went viral. Then Tommy Robinson was like, well, hang on a minute. He's actually been attacking English schoolgirls. That's why they beat him up.
And English is shorthand for white.
And then he sued him.
as well.
Huh?
English being shorthand for white.
Might be where you're sitting, Ed. Might be
Sorry,
where you're
as a man of
sitting.
colour, actually.
Yeah. But he's had several. He's been in prison. This is the point that...
Yeah, you're right. I was wrong.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's difficult to know. It could have been anything.
Anything.
He's been in and out of prison over the years. But for... I'll just give you a little flavour, shall I?
I'd love it.
In 2005, he kicked an officer in the head after the officer intervened in an argument he was having with his then girlfriend. In 2011, he headbutted a man. Later that year, he led a brawl at Luton Town Football Club. 2012, he was in court over a false passport. Then again, he was in court for mortgage fraud.
18 months for the mortgage fraud, I think.
Well, significant, I would say. 2024, the Times reported that he hadn't paid tax on £1.6 million in profits that he'd made through a number of companies with a number of associates. And That one actually annoyed me the most, all right? You can kick people in the head all you like, but not paying your tax, that man is no friend of the working class. Because truly, if you are the sort of person at the moment who feels like your vote doesn't count because you're poor and you're struggling in a cost of living crisis, your hero is not paying his fair share of tax. And that's the reason you have things like the winter fuel allowance taken away, because people like him don't want to contribute to the pot.
But I appreciate the very valid criticism you've just made. Are we at risk of, projecting a degree of class consciousness onto people whose support for Tommy Robinson is
based
on racism?
But he describes himself as the working class hero.
Clearly, not a working class hero that I think any of us would recognise.
That's the point I was making.
I know. What I'm saying
Stop
is...
calling working class people racists, Ed.
What the hell? I've not spoken for about 10 minutes.
That, anyone who could possibly conceive of him in that way, you can't... essentially, anyone who viewed him positively is accounting for and accepting his far-right politics. Mm-hmm. At which point, whether or not he pays his taxes possibly is rendered irrelevant, because the thing you're into him for isn't his critique of capitalism. It's the outrageous things that he says about mostly Muslims, but of other immigrants as well.
Sorry, just to be very clear, I was only going off the back of himself, who he self-describes as a working class hero. I don't actually think, broadly speaking, if we're going to discuss people as monoliths or homogenous, I don't think that the working class are racist actually at all, particularly not in cities. I think the racism is in the suburbs with the middle class to upper middle class people. Tell you what, I haven't been skiing, but I've seen a few photos of après.
And they're on blackface.
Very...
What are you talking about? What's happening at après?
They're all watching the Grooming Gang's video
and doing nothing about it.
Yeah.
Do you think Elon Musk would be tweeting about Tommy Robinson if he'd organised a rent strike?
Do I think rent strike?
If Tommy Robinson had organised a cross-Luton rent strike, and that was his career trait.
This is the thing with Musk. I don't think he has even a cursory knowledge or interest in British politics. Genuinely,
I've got some things for him. You know how he's just tweeting about Jimmy Savile now?
Yeah.
See, the Grooming Gang thing, I think that's actually worked for Musk, because everyone is like, oh fuck, that was really bad, and that's gone under the radar for a bit too long.
Yeah, Jimmy, not so bad.
He's now tweeting about Jimmy Savile, and we all know about Jimmy Savile. That's not new. That's not new at all.
Yeah, and I think has he discovered
Starmer's association with him?
I would say as director
I
of
don't
public
think
prosecutions.
he's got that one
Well,
yet.
that's going to
be great.
That's
blow
next.
his little
There's some other
mind.
scandals in British history that he hasn't cottoned on to.
Right.
The MP who died by autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yeah.
Pervert MPs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pervert MPs, to be fair.
Yeah.
You could just have an absolute field day.
It's going to be a fun... I think it's been a fun few days on Wikipedia for Elon Musk learning about British politics.
The troubles? Once he learns about Bloody Sunday, holy shit.
He's going to have a Damascene conversion. I mean, he's already had a Damascene.
He'd be on your side in that.
Whose side?
On the British side.
I think...
Oh, that's what you meant by your.
I think upon discovering about the injustice of Bloody Sunday and
That not enough of them were killed.
the horrific actions of Soldier F in particular, Elon Musk would see the light.
You think?
And become a Republican socialist.
He's done it
before.
He learns one thing about Soldier
He's done
F,
it before. I mean,
and he
where are
becomes
the tweets? Where are the old tweets?
This is a stretch into this segment.
Where are the old tweets? I haven't got the old tweets. Where are they? Here they are.
He learned, so he's going to learn about Soldier F and become woke.
He was woke. 2018. Don't buy our car if that's a problem. People should be free to live their lives where their heart takes them. Followed by a rainbow of heart emojis.
Yeah.
And in 2013, he said he was a significant donor to the Democrats, as well as donating to the Republicans. He's previously been a pretty big speaker on climate change. What I'm saying is...
This all leads down to Bloody Sunday.
So,
I don't
so
know.
once he learns about Soldier F,
what I'm saying...
back
you're treating with incredulity my idea that he could find out about Bloody Sunday and all of a sudden become, less of a far right blowhard.
I think that's causation. I think that's correlation and causation.
That's absolutely not. He has vault fast on his politics multiple times.
Oh yeah. But I just don't think Soldier F is going to be the impetus for it.
Don't you?
No.
What do you think is?
I think just that, like, he just wake up one day and decide to tweet something else.
But that's what I feel like he's doing.
Yeah, I think Soldier F will have very little to do with it.
No, so, okay.
Soldier F still alive?
You guys, I thought we were doing like. I think he's in his 90s.
Okay, we could arrange a sit down.
Johnny Mercer was. I'm very much.
I was going to say,
operating
what does he think of Johnny Mercer? Yeah.
Well,
what does he think about the Plymouth Herald?
the comment section specifically.
Well, he has been accused, Musk, hasn't he, of using aliases on Twitter.
Oh, Adrian Dittman.
So he might be using aliases to write about
Johnny
Mercer's wife in the Plymouth Herald comment section. Hey, what do you think he'd make of... I know that he's been pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell before, so obviously he won't be bothered about Peter Mandelson meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. What do you think he'll make of Jeremy Corbyn having met with Jerry Adams?
So is this pre or post Soldier F? Because I think that's quite a different answer.
Elon could Sinn Féin win in Aberdeen.
Elon has been funneling money into the Aberdonian Sinn Féin.
He puts his massive new Tesla factory in Aberdeen on the
condition
it's a republic, a Sinn Féin republic.
You mentioned the money, and I heard a very interesting interview with Gawain Towler, formerly of Reform, formerly of Brexit, formerly of UKIP. He's basically been
Fathers for Justice.
He's been Nigel's spinner and Fathers for Justice's spinner on and off.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was a joke, and I didn't get this at all.
Going back 20 years. And he said that Reform had heard nothing, like genuinely nothing about a £100 million donation from Elon Musk until it was reported in the press. That essentially somebody else, other than them, put that story out there, that Elon saw the reporting, and that led to them meeting and having a discussion.
Shut up.
Yeah. That's Gawain Towler's version
Shut
of events.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
He actually accused the Tories of doing it.
Well, do you know something?
He thought the Tories leaked it to try and discredit Reform because they thought it would be toxic to be associated with Musk. Apparently, that's his version of events. I don't know the ins
Well,
and outs.
Ghislaine Maxwell was actually going to leave me the entire Epstein estate.
I don't think she's got control of her assets anymore.
Anyway, someone leaked that.
I suppose, like, it's been... What's kind of coming true that if that move by the Tories, if Musk tweeting about how much he loves Tommy Robinson and whatever, who's probably just learned about it, and now Reform are like, shit.
And now he's tweeting that Nigel isn't the leader. But again, superficial. I think Nigel Farage probably is the best person to lead Reform for the next 5 years.
He's the only person who can lead it. Also, Zia Youssef, who's the new chairman,
I think.
Chairman. He was... His entire speech, wasn't it, on Saturday, Laura, that it was the reason that Reform works is that we're all behind Nigel Farage. We don't have we don't have to worry about watching our backs the way the Conservatives leaders did all those years. We just are united behind Nigel. And then 10 hours later, chaos.
Well, then remember how shit they were under Tice? Like, remember pre Farage coming back and they were like, here's our con-socialist PowerPoint. Remember how shit that was?
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, because you worked so long on it.
We've got to actually stop doing it because I'm actually getting like loads of like hate now about like every time I like tweet about Reform. Bearing in mind that I literally tweet, I say 4 out of 5 tweets are about Labour. I tweet once about Reform. I get absolute slew.
Are they in on the bit, or are they actually being like, you support Reform?
They're saying like, oh, we thought this was a funny bit in the podcast. Quite clearly, you're a member of the Reform Party. And I'm just like, can you...
Well, they're clearly thick then.
They
They
are
still think
clearly
I'm Alistair
thick.
Campbell's son.
Doesn't make it
do.
nice. Did you see the stuff about Alistair Campbell running a betting syndicate?
Yeah,
See that over
that-
the weekend.
yeah. It's collapsed.
So how did that happen, mate?
Christmas was awkward.
Yeah.
We'd all got some quite lucrative gifts. Some shares in that syndicate.
Do you think they'll let me put Schofield on Epstein Island?
Why do you get to pick where Schofield is?
Because I'm inheriting.
She can inherit it. She's put the story out there. Was the island called Fuck Island?
No! It's Little St. James.
Right, okay. Did they call it
Same thing.
Did they call it Fuck Island in their correspondence?
Maybe.
I feel like I've got
the
that
plane
from
was
somewhere.
the Lolita Express.
Yeah.
What a fucking pedo name for the island as well.
Fuck
Little
island.
St.
Oh, right.
James. Why is he little?
And also the Lolita Express. I mean,
Yeah.
these things were hiding in plain sight.
Slightly on the nose.
Okay, so Musk then tweets that he doesn't want Farage to be leader. I think he's wrong. But Ben Habib obviously recently resigned. His problems with the complete lack of party democracy. Parties should be democracies. They shouldn't be corporations with a single shareholder like Farage. You were at the Reform Conference at the weekend.
Hang on, before you ask me a sensible question, can I just put my jibe in?
Please.
Ben Habib proving that politics is purely full of embittered men.
That scans. Yeah.
What else is he piping up for now? He's like, Elon's like anti-Farage, and he's like, Elon,
Pick me.
me, Ben,
Pick
Ben.
me.
I've had
Ben.
nothing to do with the political landscape for years. Talk to me.
I think Reform. Isn't it mad? They've only got 5 MPs. I think they exert more influence on the media ecosystem and possibly national politics than the Tories do right now.
Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
But not more than Labour, which is that's the worst.
You would hope so.
But that's the worst take that's made online. It's like you don't give any time to Labour, and it's like all we hear is Labour.
Labour's
The Tories
news.
don't want to offer any kind of opposition. The Liberal Democrats, well, we can put them in the freezer until 2028 when we get the social care plan from Labour, because that's all they're good for.
Did he get Christmas number 1? Ed Davey? I assume not.
No, he didn't. So we didn't get the release.
What
They
did
didn't
get
release that
Christmas
video of
number
Nick
one?
Clegg.
Wham!
Wham again.
Davey made it to 33.
That's pretty good. For a non-professional singer, I'll give him that.
Weren't you two taking the piss out of him for doing that?
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't taking the piss. I was
Yes, you
making
were.
the very valid political point that I thought that
It was undignified.
I thought it was undignified.
Yeah, it's beneath him, unfortunately.
And all to just get 33rd in the Christmas charts.
And getting slagged off on the PoliticsJOE podcast.
Yeah.
That's
We'd
like-
never do that to George Michael.
A bodying from which you will never recover.
It's like when Rita Ora tweeted that thing that was like, if this gets a million likes, I'll release my new album. And it got like 10,000. So she tweeted, someone hacked my Twitter account and they're threatening to release my music.
That's
horrendous.
sad, isn't
Nothing gets posted until I'm ready.
it? Is she still with the director?
Taika Waititi.
Yes, YTT.
Yeah, they're married.
Love that for them.
What happened at Reform Conference?
With Rita Ora?
Yeah. I hear she's the latest defection.
No, there's a singer.
Holly Valance.
Holly Valance is there.
Kiss
Yeah.
Kiss, a very good...
Did you know who she was before she
Yes,
arrived
brother.
at Reform Conference? Did you?
Do you know who Holly Valance is?
I'm 20.
You never
Oh,
heard that
fuck
song?
you.
No. See, like it was real. I think there was a real generation gap, not amongst you guys.
You're
but when-
3 years younger than me,
When
Ed.
Christopher Hope was tweeting Holly Valance this year, I was like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's a generation gap between me and Christopher Hope.
Okay.
Which I think is probably true.
Maybe it's a border thing. Did you know who Holly Valance was?
We get neighbours in Scotland.
Huh?
We get neighbours in Scotland.
I don't know her from Neighbours. I know her from...
I know her as a famous recording artist, Ed. I know her as the songbird of her generation.
Top 5 songs. Top 5 Holly Valance songs.
Kiss Kiss. And
On
that's all that
repeat,
matters.
1 through 5.
The extended edition.
And Sunday Bloody Sunday. Holly Valance and the Orange Order.
Do you think a flute band has ever played
charity
it?
single.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. She leads the next march. No, come on, give us some insights from Reform Conference, Ava.
We went there to speak to young people,
You and Laura.
of which it was not very difficult, actually.
But there are lots of them.
It was a definite shift in demographic, I would say, to the other Reform meetups that we've covered.
I see they've cut price. The membership is £10
£10, yeah.
if you're younger and you want to join versus 25 for everybody else.
Well, over Christmas, under 25-year-olds, I think they had 2,500. That number might have grown now. While
Overtaking the
Nigel was on
Tories.
stage, he was very excited, jubilant even, because they hit 170,000 membership.
Wow.
Bigger than the Tories.
Significantly. They've been bigger than the Tories for some time. You can debate whether that even matters, because, I mean, it matters on a...
I guess if you don't have a meaningful party democracy, what does it matter?
Yeah, does
Yeah.
it translate to... Because you could make the argument that the membership was massive under Jeremy Corbyn, but that didn't translate into an election win.
I get it gives you activists, I guess, and I think that's probably what Reform.
We did pick up quite a lot of the votes.
You need apparatus.
They need the ground game, right? That's the difference. Nigel does the air war, dominates it, can do that with his eyes closed. they need the activists on the ground, canvassers, etc. And I guess if you sign up to be a political party, that first year that you are a member is probably the moment of maximum opportunity for said party to get the most door knocking out of you outside of an election year.
Also, as well, if there's no meaningful party democracy, your membership actually maybe is worth it. It's more of a statement. Because what are you getting in return? All you're doing is getting the leaflets and the badges. Really.
They changed. They've got rid of. He was coming out to Eminem.
Yes.
That's gone now.
Okay.
It's this song. I'd never heard. I don't know if this is just like an instrumental.
Oh yeah, let's go. Is there a drop? Feels like it.
Of course, there's a drop.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No. That's rule number 1 of DJing.
Never pause.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Never hear silence in the club.
Deliver the drop. That's rule number 1.
I don't know how far in the drop is, though.
This might get demonetized. Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is now? That's because reform's cool.
Hate to break it to you.
Everybody's saying
Nigel is
everybody's
cool.
saying that reform's the cool guys.
I was genuinely quite worried when he came out to Eminem's Without Me.
Why?
Because I thought, shit, that's going to do so well on TikTok. That
Yeah.
is going to hit the men where they want it.
Do you know who Joseph Valenti is?
Pardon?
I asked him. Do you know who Joseph Valenti is?
No, who is that?
So he won The Apprentice in 2015.
Oh, of course.
That wasn't the end of that sentence.
Anyway, Ollie, so should we...
Fuck off!
Rattled.
I hate it. See, whenever I try and do something on this podcast, it's
Rattled.
yeah, it's annoying.
Sorry, Ed, you were saying.
Nigel Farage did a sit-down interview with Joseph Valenti, who won The Apprentice in 2015, and he's kind of trying to pivot to like an Andrew Tate-esque, not in terms of his views about women, but in terms of like, this is my aspirational lifestyle, here's my Lamborghini, here's my bizarre yellow suit kind of vibe.
That's the only thing that's letting Andrew Tate down, really.
Is his dress sense.
The human trafficking.
Which he denies.
And Valenti has like 500,000 followers on Instagram, and Farage sat down and did, and I think it was like...
How many?
Pardon?
How many followers? Sorry?
500,000 followers on Instagram. Okay. He's got 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's launched something called the Joseph Valenti Show, where he does a podcast, and he did like a really oddly edited 6-minute interview with Nigel Farage, and it's like jump cut between like everything Nigel Farage. And Nigel Farage was just talking about how reform is going to bring back the entrepreneurial spirit, to bring back apprentices, all these things. And I thought it was speaking to, I think it was interesting Farage's approach in the way we're stonewalled by political parties mostly. Like the Tories don't want to come on here. It's very hard to get someone from Labour on this. Farage was engaging with us, in the knowledge that the majority of our audience does not agree with him, but he's willing to speak to people. He's willing to maybe try and convince those people. And at the same time, he's doing a complimentary interview with someone like Joseph Valenti, who are all these like, who's like a hustle culture guy. So his audience is very different to ours. So there's been a lot of talk about his digital approach.
Tell me about getting the interview with Nigel. Tell me about who else he spoke to whilst it was at Reform Conference. Because it was you and Laura Kay, wasn't it? Laura Kunsberg.
Yeah. The two sides of the coin, obviously. You do Sunday with Laura Kunsberg, and then you do PoliticsJOE.
Yeah.
And Joseph Valenti.
And Joseph Valenti. And I mean, look, I don't know how much we sort of want to do the inside baseball, lift the curtain thing here, but we have, we've been blacklisted by the Tories for a while. It's difficult to get Labour on. And yet here we have, I would say, probably the most high profile politician in Britain right now, apart from the Prime Minister, maybe more than the Prime Minister, in Nigel Farage, willingly giving you the time. And I think it's the same with the Valenti thing. I think they're looking at America and they're learning the lesson, which is the media landscape has changed. James Carville wrote about this, I think, over the Christmas period, that basically podcasts are now newspapers. They're the equivalent of the newspapers. And in the same way that, 50 years ago, running a political campaign that didn't involve engagement with newspapers was basically suicide. You follow that up with, radio, you follow that up with TV, and now we're in the social media age. And I think Reform have understood the power of digital communication and digital campaigning in a way. I saw on that someone, I can't remember what this, I think it was while the Jess Phillips stuff was going on, and someone had tweeted something from the Labour TikTok, and it was like
That bizarre AI line.
AI animals being like, yeah, free breakfast clubs, nationalised rail, and you're looking at it being like, right, I don't think you guys are quite at the races.
No, it's not a particularly slick online operation from Labour. I mean, one of they were doing these pieces during Labour conference where they would have the ministers sit down out in front of like a floral background, and they'd be like, "What's your favourite song? What's your favourite artist?" And you're like, "What kind of digital strategy is this?" It's basically like you think that online, where all of the eyes are. By the way, everything that you read in the newspaper, journalists have read that online before, and then they write it into the newspaper.
It was so funny. Before coming to work today, obviously I had some time off, and I was watching the news over the weekend to be like, right, let's just get, gently ease myself back into the agenda. I don't really want to look at Twitter. And the lead story on the Beeb, and I think it was ITV, was Musk's tweet being like, Farage isn't the right person to lead reform. And I'd seen the tweet, I think, 6 hours previously, and then I'd saw his tacit endorsement, maybe not an endorsement, of Rupert Lowe. And because the Rupert Lowe tweet was like maybe 4 or 5 hours later, I think, they hadn't picked it up yet, so it didn't feature any of the packages. And it was literally like 6 minutes long, and the story was essentially, Musk has tweeted this.
Yeah.
So anyone who is on Twitter already has the story, and it was a
We're
real...
not even on Twitter. On it, because it bleeds onto Instagram. Then.
Yeah.
Someone
And
snapshot
TikTok.
it, put it on their TikTok.
Yeah.
My mum had seen it. I'm pretty sure before ITV had put
Yeah.
out that number.
Before they put it out, and so you're kind of going, the news is happening elsewhere, if you know what I mean. And I think Reform get that. But I wanted to talk to you about the young guys that you spoke to.
But wait, before that, do you know
Sure.
who acknowledged this before Christmas? I did Sky with Jonathan Gullis.
Did you?
He was my partner on the panel,
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah.
and his
How was he?
Good.
The old
He
bastard.
was well.
Did you sleep well, Mr. Gullis?
He actually said on air, he said what you've said. He said, I don't know why politicians aren't going on podcasts like PoliticsJOE, why they're going on legacy media. But the problem is that it's sort of like, there's this opinion amongst older press officers, I wouldn't say younger press officers, and older more senior politicians who think that getting something into a newspaper or getting something on television, that's like the proper way to do things. It's that's the best way to do it, right? Online doesn't translate or whatever. And that sneering disregard is how you will lose an election. And they're taking that off the blueprint, off of what happened during the Corbyn eras. But online is changing rapidly. It's growing. You think about the age groups of people who are now online, who weren't online during the Corbyn eras, because what their argument was, well, everyone who was young and online was tweeting pro-Corbyn rhetoric or whatever, everyone was really gunning after it, but that didn't translate into votes. Now you've got my mum on there. My grandma is looking at Instagram. Everyone is online.
I think got great aesthetic.
I think the arms
Nan.
Huh?
Great aesthetic on the grid. Your nan.
Oh, she couldn't post.
she's not allowed to.
She's.
Taking away her posting privilege. She actually has an Instagram for teens account.
I don't think she'd be able to. She's mastered the scroll though now.
That's all you need.
It's great because like every now and again she'll send me something and she'll go, "Have you seen this?" I go, "Yeah, that is me. That's me." So I have seen it. Yeah.
Do you think? Sorry, Ed, you were about to say something.
I was going to say. No, I'll say it anyway. I've started. I think they are engaging with creators, but in a really quite odd way. Do you remember Sunak was supposed to do Top Jaw?
He did do it,
but like Top Jaw pulled it.
Yeah,
but there should have been like.
Why did Top Jaw pull it?
Because
Comments.
they got so much flack for having Richie Sunak on it.
Are you serious? And they pulled it.
pulled it.
That's so wet.
But then
Yeah,
like
it is,
Sunak.
yeah. It's like if you're going to have the Tory Prime Minister on, like eat your pie.
then-
They like eating pie.
But then
famously.
Sunak should have done like.
Can we just
eating
dwell
with
on
Todd
that?
as
Yes.
well? He should.
That would be so on point.
He should have
No,
done.
Starmer and Todd.
But
Starmer
they
and Todd
they
are
should be
brothers in
on
arms.
The Schooner Scorer. You should be on like.
I think
They
the vibes are
filmed an
wrong.
episode with Rishi Sunak
and pulled
and
it.
they pulled it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they
Yeah.
didn't like the comments. That is so embarrassing.
And then
Big time, yeah.
Starmer-
Look, message to all of you. We won't delete it. We won't delete it when the comments are bad.
We've got a high threshold.
We have a very high threshold for pain. At
Luke was still up. Luke was still up. Starmer recently did.
Oh, sorry. Do you remember when I had to be dragged kicking and screaming into the CEO's office and made to delete the tweet that called Keir Starmer a cunt?
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember.
We never talk about it.
I wonder why they won't come on the show.
And I was backing into the hilt that day. I was like, it's fine.
Gunning for my job.
But isn't it funny that they'll hold a massive grudge over that? But then you look at some of the newspapers.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Ben Rigby kicked his arse every week.
And they're like, he's like, Beth,
She pulled his
Again!
pants down.
more.
Daddy wants more. Do you think it has something to do with the prevalence? You know, okay, first 6 months for Labour, terrible. They kick out the inexperienced hands. They bring in the sort of the new Labour veterans, people who did politics 20 years ago.
Yeah, they're trying to get him on Kilroy.
Yeah. I think that's why they've sent Peter Mandelson over to do the US ambassador job, because they're like, can you go away?
We've had enough.
What on earth was he doing? Oh, do you know what? Can you imagine what he says about us behind closed doors? Because you know he's really polite in public,
But
and he's really
PoliticsJOE.
horrible behind closed doors. And he's got eyes everywhere in. But
Is that a joke about having glasses?
it wasn't. No.
Okay. I wasn't making that joke either. I just wanted to be clear.
But you know, do you ever just want to go to him like, give it up, man?
He's
like
so-
you
he's
were a
quite
cabinet minister
Enjoy your retirement.
20 years ago.
Sorry.
What you sniffing around
He's
for?
like a millionaire. Like, fucking let it go, man.
Yeah, let it go. Let someone else have a chance at it.
Retire to the Caribbean, buy an ounce, start fishing.
And with him and all, it's not even ideological. It's just power based. Like, do you remember when he
Yeah.
leaked to the press allegedly that Gordon Brown was gay? So that
No!
yeah, yeah.
No, I don't actually remember that, Ava.
Well, I don't remember either. But, you know. Laura, I don't even think was born.
There was a rumour that Gordon Brown was gay.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. He started a rumor that Gordon Brown was gay
That's really funny.
because it was
Allegedly.
Still, it was allegedly because it was still in that time when it wasn't like, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But just being like, oh, he's gay, by the way. What?
Yeah,
What are
I
you
know.
talking about?
He's like the Gavin Williamson of the Blair years.
Was he
The Dark Prince. Come on, I want to hear about the
I want to talk
young...
about the Schooner scorer.
I think you're wrong, by the way. You shouldn't put Starmer on the Schooner Scorer. Starmer Schooner Scorer is a bad... The vibes of it, that is not a good influencer campaign.
No, but did you see the thing? You actually probably didn't see this, because I don't think anyone saw this. Was a creator I never heard of, a YouTuber came up on my homepage and said, I accidentally interviewed the Prime Minister. And Downing Street had invited 5 creators from across like different sectors. I think this guy's like a science YouTuber, and invited them to ask one question each to the Prime Minister. And I think this is probably the first you both are hearing about this, is me telling you this.
Yeah.
Because the distribution of it is so fucking terrible.
When did they do this?
But it's before Christmas.
But I see everything online. How did I not see this?
Literally, I saw it because it came up on my homepage, and I was like, "Oh, weird. Who's this guy?"
That sucks.
And so instead of inviting the Schooner Scorer, they've invited Science Boy.
Why-
I'm sure the Science Boy is as a valuable creator community.
I actually think Starmer and Todd is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, utterly
Starmer
banal.
does the over that. Starmer's done the over that.
cheese-pulling.
To be fair to him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's done table manners.
Yeah,
Jesse Ware.
he should do Filthy Fellas.
That would not go
That
well.
would be
Gasworks. He should do Gasworks.
I can understand the
Yeah,
impetus
okay.
behind him doing Table Manners. I love that podcast. I think it's amazing. But that is very middle class, that podcast. And when I mean middle class, I mean like people of a certain age. I would argue, if I was going to shoot a guess, homeowners who are in their 40s listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
They're already voting for you, Keir.
Yeah, How to Fail.
Yeah. Has he done How to Fail?
I think he has.
He's done High Performance, hasn't he?
He's the most high performance
Do you know
man in the
what?
world.
I actually think that doing the high performance podcast could hemorrhage you votes. Like, I actually think if
No, people
all
like
you
it.
need is a couple of people on Twitch to take the absolute piss out of it, and then everyone in universities will get too scared to admit that they voted for him.
in university.
Yeah.
I love when people talk about students as if they're sitting around like talking about politics and not just like taking cat. Like I think from the
They are talking about politics while doing that.
But then you know when people.
Oh, but you went to, what's it called, didn't you? Edinburgh.
Right, yeah. And well, I wasn't taking cat. Actually, I was in the but you know when people
What you're in a society
no,
way?
no, no, you know people talk about like students being like, oh, they're there to learn about ideas and the conflict of ideas. Like, no, they're not. They don't care about ideas. They're there to get a 2-1 and a graduate job.
I don't think that's true at all. My university experience wasn't like that at all.
Didn't you go to Sussex?
Yeah,
Different.
It's different.
You were working in London.
only in the last year.
Yeah.
But that's because that was a very strenuous year, actually.
I bet.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yeah, it was.
I'm being serious.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Anyway, it was all worth it. We're all at the same fucking table, aren't we?
Tell me about the young reform members you spoke to. It's the third time. I won't
any
ask
of them
again.
the Schooner score?
Yeah, they were interesting. They were, well, there'll be a video up later today, but they were talking about how they used to be Jeremy Corbyn voters.
This is fascinating.
And now they've switched to the Reform Party. Because, well, the reasons I don't actually want to trail it here. Go and watch the video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go and watch the video.
Sure.
They won't see this till after the video's out, to be fair.
You
They probably already watched
are
the video.
overestimating my editing skills.
Well, this comes out at 7 p.m.
Well, I'll put it out at 8 then. Oh, no, I'll put it out earlier, but then you can go back and watch it.
Yeah.
And if you've watched it now, drop a comment and I'll give you a kiss.
There are people.
There are.
We live in a society.
On Epstein Island.
Free my man. And they...
Which one?
Anyone who's still trapped there. You need to get them
There's
out.
still security guards on there. And I always wondered, do you think they can get off? Or do you think they just left them there and they're like, shit.
The Lolita Express crashed.
Where is the Lolita Express?
Where are the Lolitas?
Where are... Do you know a lot of... It's like a thing in New York. Like the New York man, university grad, you know, like quite thinks he's a beatnik, sympathises with the paedophile in Lolita. It's like a really common thing.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name? I can't remember.
Humbert.
Yeah.
Hubert? Humbert?
It's like a really common thing. I genuinely found myself, oh, thank God. Yeah, I actually did a year abroad in America. Glad I got to mention it. What the fuck are they talking
they're
about?
fucking loud.
Professionalise yourselves back there. Honestly.
They talk at full volume.
I know. Did you hear Laura? She was such a rat then. I was like, what's that noise? Laura was like, I know.
This is the main thing that's standing between them and a production team microphone, is that they would talk over us.
Should we give
Yeah.
Laura a microphone?
I think I could give Laura a microphone. Laura gets the microphone on a not infrequent basis.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she's silent most of the time. Behaves impeccably.
Shit, we were supposed to record that other podcast, weren't we? We'll have to do it tomorrow.
Shall we wrap it up there, ladies and gentlemen? Do you have
I feel like barely engaged with the thing about young people in reform. Admittedly, I was party to that decision, but I think that's a good.
We will, I think, inevitably end up revisiting that topic.
Nah,
Well, it's gone.
one and done.
We were going to do a bonus episode, Laura and I, of
Oh,
what we
good.
saw.
Nice.
Listen to that podcast when it drops in your feed. Okay. Great to be back at the table with you both.
Could you, if you're on the Reddit, can we do a thread of like what podcast do you think Keir Starmer should go on?
Yeah, what influencers should he do?
He
Nash-
should do a Misfits boxing card. He should fight
KSI.
He should, no. You know SXPR, wasn't it?
Adam Brooks.
Adam Brooks fights on those cards.
Yeah.
Adam Brooks versus Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
I've shared 2 different exchanges with that Adam Brooks guy in DMs, and on both times it's him saying to me, I don't always agree with everything you say, but on this occasion I do. And I'm thinking, if he sends a third one, I'm going to go, look, we're actually 3 for 3 now. So
You're going to have to start saying when you disagree with me as well, Mr. Brooks.
Tom Usher of this parish as well. I think it's had a bit of back and forth to them.
I can see
Oh,
them
he was
getting
supposed to
on.
fight him.
No, I think he wanted to fight him. I don't think they got match made.
No.
Tom Usher is a fighter, just to be clear. It's
Yeah.
not like a...
Yeah. Right, anyway.
Yeah.
Done?
Anyway, so
Good night. God bless. Thank you very much for podcasting with us. Until next time.
Bye-bye.